Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to do a weekly recap of the Monday Night Raw, which took place last night on October 27th, 2025, in Anaheim, California, at the Honda Center. We kick off the show with a recap of the number one contenders battle royal that took place last week on Monday Night Raw. We then see Anaheim get a little oozy as main event Jey Uso makes his way to the ring as he emerges from the crowd. Jay says everyone has been in his ear lately, but at the end of the day, those voices don't matter as he's going to become World Heavyweight Champion once again at Saturday Night Main Event. Then enters CM Punk. Punk tells Jay that they're friends and he admires that Jay is finally doing what's best for him, but questions if Jay will be able to do what it takes and what he needs to do to become World Heavyweight Champion. Nothing groundbreaking here for me. I like the intensity these guys brought, and I felt like for now, with two faces going head to head, it felt like both guys had enough intensity to make this segment work. So yeah, I like this one. Could feel the desire from both of them here. We then get well, actually, before we get into the next match, we have a backstage segment where you see more of the same with the Judgment Day, as Dom has everyone against him, with the exception of maybe Roxanne, who has a small place in her heart for Dom still. Everyone else is kind of over the shenanigans. Dom gets told once again that he's on his own, but is quickly seen on his phone saying that he needs some help. So yeah, more of the same there. Everyone's tired of Dom, except for the small piece of Roxanne, and the WWE Universe can be heard chanting "Dirty Dom" throughout the entire segment. So from a Judgment Day perspective, I think safe to say Dom has burned most of his bridges. Getting into that first match of the night, we have Penta and Rusev going head to head to once again become the number one contender for that Intercontinental Championship. And that is announced that we'll get the shot at Dom at Saturday night main event. So this is, we've seen this matchup before, and arguably this is probably turning into the best match they've had. WWE has done such a great job at building these two guys, turning them both into legitimate competitors. And it's matches like these that kind of point to and say this is why Rusev, can just take absolutely anything, and Penta, it's just kind of being Penta, doing what he does best. So yeah, this one was turning into quite the match. Unfortunately, this one is cut short, presumably by that phone call Dom was making to the Americanos. And however, Rusev and Penta do end up getting the last laugh, so to speak, standing tall as they omit everyone from the ring. So at this point, I'm thinking, has Dom really avoided or evaded that match at Saturday Night Main Event? So I'm hoping at this point Pierce comes out and says something, restarts the match. It felt like Rusev and Penta were ready to do so, but that does not end up being the case. We do not see this until later. Pierce is looking for Dom, basically throughout the night, and he tells him that he'll be defending that IC title against both Penta and Rusev at Saturday Night Main Event. I felt like this was absolutely the right call, and kind of what I've been assuming they were building towards anyways. So yeah, very much looking forward to that contest this Saturday. We then get a essentially a returning from an in-ring perspective, Nikki Bella. She'd been out for a bit since making her debut. Obviously came in last week to save Vaquer, but other than that, haven't seen her in the ring since. Yeah, Nikki Bella going up against Roxanne Perez, of course, joined by Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day. And this match, stemming from, like I just mentioned, Nikki kind of stuck her nose in Judgment Day business, so of course she has to pay the price. Roxanne and Nikki have a pretty decent match that ends with Roxy hitting a pop rocks to get the win. And yeah, I was very critical of Nikki's first match back, and props to her. She looks significantly better here. Granted, it's not a ton to compare by, but she looked a lot better here. So give her flowers there. And this was a singles match, so even more difficult to kind of hide if you are a bit ring rusty in the ring, and that was mentioned by the commentary team that she did look a little better in this match. So after the match, much like last week, we see Roxy and Raquel attack Nikki, but Vaquer returns the favor and saves Nikki Bella. But we do get a pretty interesting face off there to kind of end the segment with Raquel and Vaquer. Kind of going face to face. So yeah, I very much for that match. It probably goes without saying, but yeah, sign me up. I thought this was like I said, a decent match. Much better performance by Nikki, and kind of gives us a direction going forward. But with that, KP, first half of Raw, what are your thoughts? The promo between Jay and Punk, the number one contenders match between Rusev and Penta, and the one-on-one match with Roxanne and Nikki Bella.
I think you mentioned, pretty well at the start of the show here with Jay and CM Punk. They did have enough intensity. I think they sort of did make it work with the best that they could. Really, obviously with a face-to-face dynamic, it's only so much you can really do. And this sort of like teetering angle they've got going on with Jey Uso, and this sort of like, I don't know, this coming of a different personality that he's got going on. I think it does sort of show little shades of that. But at the end of the day, both these guys just want to win the world title. So unlike when we had, for example, Tiffany Stratton and Stephanie Vaquer recently, who were just very, very respectful towards each other in that face-to-face dynamic, this is a bit more, a little more edgy, a little bit more. They definitely know what they want, and they want to do anything to basically get it done. So you can see that sort of is the sort of vibe from both these guys. So I think they did make the opening segment work a little bit, but yeah, I think naturally the face heel thing does work a little better, but I don't think this was a failure. I don't think so at all. So yeah, the match at Saturday Night's main event obviously is going to be an interesting one for sure. We'll have to wait and see what goes down from there, but they did what they could to set the seeds, up until that point. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But not a bad opening to the show for sure. I didn't dislike it for sure. So yeah, not bad at all really. The second segment of the night, and obviously the first matchup with Rusev and Penta, yeah, kind of saw this one coming. Dom alluded to it just before the matchup took place, so it wasn't really the biggest surprise, to be fair. But just generally speaking, looking forward to seeing that matchup take place at SNME. Obviously it's going to be pretty great, so it can't be a bad contest. But yeah, Rusev and Penta obviously got a lot of animosity towards each other, and this one was a really good match. I enjoyed the back and forth, and I thought they both guys, just showcased themselves very, very well. And I guess it probably is the smart call. You don't really want to have these guys taking a loss, sort of, in that build up to it. So yeah, the best way of doing it, do what they did, have Los Americanos get involved, and yeah, we get a triple threat. So yeah, I can't argue with it. I think it was a pretty logical choice, but obviously you would have liked to see a win, but you don't really need to in this case. So yeah, I think yeah, definitely keen for that match to take place. Obviously, it's been a long brewing story for a while now, so keen to see how that one does play off in the end. The one-on-one between Roxy and Nikki. Yeah, I mean, not a bad match to be fair. Thought these ladies put on a decent show here, to be honest with you. And yeah, just every time I see Roxy get a win, I'm pleased by that. So just generally speaking, I think she needs to rack up the results here. So this is a good victory for her. I think recently she just lost out to Stephanie Vaquer, didn't she? So not too long ago. But yeah, I think Nikki Bella hasn't really hit the ground running, is she? Every time she gets back into the ring, tends to have a unfortunate result in her respect. So yeah, just I think it is kind of difficult here. You have to have one of the two ladies win, but I think the right person did get the result in the end. So I have no complaints here with this one. Just want to put out a little note here in the matchup as well. I've noticed a point where Roxy, she gets slapped by Nikki Bella, and she sort of like collapses to the floor, and it almost looks like maybe she got probably rocked by Nikki Bella, and the referee's just she's sort of like just like just looking out for Roxy in that particular moment. And there was a point where I thought she actually put up a little bit of an X, but I think she was just putting her arm around her in a bit of a strange manner. But yeah, I think she was fine because obviously after that she carried on and the matchup went fine. So yeah, I was just a little concerned at one point there. Maybe it must have just been a bit of a hard slap from Nikki or something perhaps. But yeah, the post-match stuff with Raquel Rodriguez, that was quite interesting. Looks like Raquel might be sizing up the women's championship, perhaps. That's the vibe I'm getting from this one. We think, tag team could be the situation here going forward between these four ladies. But I think also Raquel getting that title opportunity could be on the horizon. So, yeah, that's what I took from that like last little bit. But not a bad start to Monday Night Raw, to be fair. Yeah, definitely a few talking points and setting the seeds for SNME especially. But yeah, did a decent job and I was invested for sure.
Perhaps it was wishful thinking on my side when Dom made that call to Los Americanos, and either wishful thinking or just kind of forgot about it because that Rusev Penta match was going so well. Maybe had thought that, well, maybe he's calling them for Saturday to kind of make plans for them on Saturday. But alas, I was fooled, I guess, because when I saw them come down the ramp, I was like, oh, geez, you're going to ruin this great match. But yeah, I did notice that bit from Stan and Jessica Carr with the almost putting up an X or kind of did. I don't know if maybe that was just Roxy playing up the heel. Obviously, that's something we hadn't seen before. But yeah, like you said, the match ended up finishing out great. So for what it was, yeah, hopefully nothing serious. Getting into the second half of Raw, we see LA Knight going up against Braun Breaker, which stems from a backstage segment earlier in the night when the Braun Browns questioned why they shouldn't have just inserted themselves into that battle royal last week. Paul told them that it's much easier and smarter to use that passion on one person instead of 20, which, when you put it like that, it does make sense. Braun requests a match later in the night to kind of take out the other person that Paul mentions that has a similar vision. Paul, of course, being one step ahead, says he's already set that match up, and it is, of course, with Mr. LA Knight himself. So this match felt like it had a big fight feel, and I think some of that might kind of need to be credited to this crowd that was red hot throughout the entire night. But this match just had a big feel to it, and you have to feel bad for LA Knight because I think any other person in the company he probably wins here. But he just walked into the buzzsaw that is Braun Breaker as he does win with an absolutely monstrous spear. And again, this match just felt special. And it was a great match, and seemingly all the matches here tonight that we got, none of them were bad. All of them were at least good, and most of them great. So this no exception. But yeah, clearly the vision less Seth Rollins is still going to have no issues. Bronson Reed played a bit of a part, but in the grand scheme of things, not a huge part. So I think Braun could probably have handled it on its own, but regardless, a good match for what we got. We then have a JD McDonough of the Judgment Day with Finn Balor going up against Sheamus. This match stemming from a heated Sheamus being eliminated in an unsavory fashion from last week's Battle Royal as well. So lots of stories being pulled from that Battle Royal. We see a backstage segment where the Judgment Day is requesting their rematch because they lost those titles. Pierce Fiery comes back and says, well, actually, you have a match with Sheamus because you guys eliminated him in the fashion that you did. So, as we should expect from these two individuals, this one is a very hard hitting. It's very hard hitting. These two are just very good at doing so. JD does end up getting the win with the Spanish Fly with a small assist, absolutely earned by Finn Balor and that Shillelagh. But regardless, that does not take away. Yes, another interference kind of win, assisted win there. But in terms of the match we got, these two just really went at it. It was super entertaining. Lucky us. Before we get into the main event, we do see a backstage segment with Maxine Dupree and Adam Pearce. It has Adam telling Dupree that she has earned that IC title because she's beaten Becky twice. Maxine doesn't decline, but defers that title opportunity until she has time to properly prepare, as she states. So essentially, she just wants to make sure she's all ready to go. So Adam says, well, whenever you're ready, the opportunity is there for you. So interesting bit there. And I think I like it. Curious to get your thoughts on that one, KP. And one other bit before we do get that main event, we do get a pretty cool 10 years of Oscar video package that I, of course, thought was pretty sweet. One of my favorite talents, obviously. So this was a cool little package that they put together for 10 years of Oscar, kind of going through her debut up to recent. And really, I don't think any other reason other than that, but it was cool to see. But getting into that main event, Bailey and Lyra Valkyria tried to merge their names there, going up against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair for those women's tag team championship. And like I said, and what was a very fitting ending to this episode of Raw, because this one felt like it was PLE worthy, and neither team looks weak here, and absolutely the best, in my opinion, that both Charlotte and Alexa have looked as a team, and Bailey and Lyra. Both of these teams just really kind of merging well together, their chemistry, and this one was off the charts, and it took quite a few false finishes, and finally, Bailey and Lyra had to receive an in sync natural selection from Charlotte and Alexa to get the wins and still your women's tag team champions. So, probably should have expected this, but the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kyrie, come in and ambush what's left of the two teams after the match and are eventually chased off by Bailey. But clearly, the Kabuki Warriors are not happy with the opportunity Bailey and Lyra were given. And I think that's kind of teased earlier in the night when Asuka calls them out for cutting in line. So, yeah, pretty action packed second half here, KP. What are your thoughts on the LA Knight Braun Breaker match, the Sheamus and JD match, and of course, that main event?
Yeah, I thought both singles matches were great. Starting off with LA Knight and Braun Breaker, especially because obviously that's the first thing to get into. But yeah, that was a really good contest. Thought both men just delivered out there. Thought they put on a compelling back and forth, and just generally speaking was really interested about how it sort of flowed. And yeah, I think maybe a main criticism is that obviously being an LA Knight fan, I do notice that it's been a long time since he did anything of, I don't know, importance. It's been so long now. Um, Losing to Braun Breaker is not a bad thing. Like, generally speaking, you lose to him, that's not really an issue. But I think just the losses add up over time, and you keep on building that up to a point where you do seem to think that this is one of the guys that a lot of people are calling out to be in world title contention. Can you really say that he really is anymore? I don't really think you can, because it gets to a point where you take loss after loss after loss after loss, and it just seems to sort of, I don't know, like, not be as interesting anymore in the grand scheme of things. I think they did themselves, they put themselves in a bad position here, because they kind of had a situation where they needed both men to get a win, but they're putting them against each other just for a high priority matchup. I don't necessarily agree with the call to make this match from the situation, unless we do get something going forward where we do actually get that push from Knight. But I mean, how long have we been wanting it for now? Well, I don't know about we, but like me especially, I've been wanting it for a long time. So I don't think that is something that I can expect to happen anytime soon. But the match was great. I thought the finish was fantastic. With the LA Knight taunt on the second rope, and then Braun Breaker does a kip up, sort of a dodge rolls away from LA Knight and then hits a big spear to get the victory. I thought that was fantastic. What a way to finish a matchup. And just generally speaking, up to that point, it was really good as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of the big picture, and I just can't. Something's not right. Something isn't right. I can't quite get behind little decisions here and there. And I'm struggling to really see some direction for LA Knight. I think he's just lost in the shuffle. Nothing's really working for him, and it is really unfortunate. On to better news, though. In terms of Asuka, you mentioned that 10 years package that you were referring to. That was really cool. Is that in lieu of comments recently made by Goldberg? I don't know. It might be. But generally speaking, it just does highlight the career that Asuka has had in WWE and everything that she has achieved and what she could still go on to achieve, really. She's not done yet, is she? So, yeah, just ultimately fantastic individual with such a celebrated career, and will continue to achieve things going forward for sure. I'm absolutely no doubt about that. So, yeah, I'm excited about Asuka. They're going to present her to be, a bit bigger than they have recently. Then I'm great with that. And obviously, she's killing it with the Kabuki Warriors right now with Kairi Sane. So just a quick little shout out for that one. I enjoyed that little vignette that we did get. Speaking of enjoyed things, the next two matches were great as well. Starting with Sheamus and JD McDonough. Yeah, this one was great. I thought it was just brilliantly done. We would not naturally expect, the Celtic Warrior Sheamus to get a win over JD McDonough. But in this case, Finn Balor on the outside, playing that heel work with a shillelagh and hitting Sheamus on that second rope, top rope, whatever to call it, and knocking him to a position where, he just was completely out of it. That lovely Spanish fly, avalanche style, from McDonough to get the victory. Yeah, it was great. I just thought the finishes really tonight were just exceptional. A little bit different. just trying different things, and they were all really working as far as I was concerned. And we've got obviously the one later on that I'll talk about as well that you've already mentioned in the women's championship match, tag team championship match anyway. But yeah, this one just worked out. I think JD McDonough is really underrated, and obviously with Finn Balor and JD losing the tag team titles last week, you could naturally just keep them going on a downward spiral and have them lose again here, and create some disarray in the group. But a quick victory, straight off the back of last week for JD McDonough does wonders for him. So yeah, really happy with this with this decision, and looking forward to seeing if they can sort of like keep that momentum rolling again. But am I wanting them to get back to the tag team championship picture? No, not really. But keeping them, getting these wins, I haven't got a problem with that. I thought this was really good. Just to sort of like build that momentum back up a little bit more, and especially for Madonna, you don't see him getting these wins, so pleased for that. Then the tag team championship match at the very end, the main event. This was good. I like this one. Bailey and Lyra, obviously they haven't quite been on the same wavelength, but for this match, I thought they pretty much were for the whole thing. It didn't seem like Bailey was going through this split personality thingy really too much. Like maybe a little shades here and there, but just generally speaking, I thought they were clicking on the same thing, so that was quite nice. And Alexa and Charlotte, they seem to get better with every defense. I don't know what it is about them, but maybe they are growing into this relationship still, but they just generally do seem to improve each time they get into the ring. And I thought this was probably their most solid matchup. Yeah, and obviously you look at the talent in the ring, you expect it to be solid, but just generally speaking, I thought this was a really good main event, really good tag team matchup, and the finish was good as well. So, like you mentioned with the double natural selection, this is moments after the figure eight and Twisted Bliss combination. I thought it was good. I thought it was really, really, really back and forth, and just generally speaking, very competitive between all four women. The women's tag team titles haven't been booked strongly, and that's a division that we've sort of criticized a lot. But this, I think, time at the moment, you could argue that the women's tag team titles are probably in the best position they've been in years. So, in that sense, this is great, and it's been a long time coming for them to get into some sort of prestige. But I think they're doing a really good job of it now with Alexa and Charlotte having these titles, and the names they're going through as well with these offenses being quite regular as well. It's just heightening the division, which is fantastic. That's what you want from it, really. But generally, as a whole, Raw was great. Pretty decent show, to be fair. The match quality was great. There wasn't anything particularly groundbreaking in the show, and obviously there are some topical conversations that I've sort of like gone over. But I think generally speaking, it was a pretty solid show. I give this one 8 out of 10. Like I said, for a wrestling show, this one was really, really good. I'd like to see more of this, to be fair. Just these general really good matches, and being thoroughly invested and interested in the contests. I think this one did a really good job of doing that for me. So yeah, I'm definitely quite high on that for sure. But yeah, just as a whole, Nick, what did you make of this one? Because there was a lot of good wrestling on display, so I'm sure that you're probably going to be singing off the same hymn sheet as me there, with a sort of like a similar scaled overall from this one. But yeah, what did you make of it all together?
Yeah, as you kind of said, it's usually should be somewhat obvious by our recap up until the overall that how we enjoy the show. And like you said, a show with lots of great matches, at the very least good matches, typically leans in our favor of a rating. So believe it or not, we come here to watch a wrestling show for some good wrestling. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel every week, as you kind of alluded to. Nothing groundbreaking, but the matches itself have a point, stories are being advanced, and the in-ring action is good. It's not rocket science. So sometimes I think they make it a little harder than they need to. But you brought up a couple good points. The LA Knight, but yeah, maybe they put him up against Bronson Reed. But Bronson Reed's also been a force as well. Yeah, LA Knight's been kind of pushing that envelope for 3 years now, close to. Yeah, it does raise some questions. You could definitely see the intensity. The promo you cut in the back about being, ready for whoever wins the JCM Punk match. You could see the intensity there, and arguably one of his best promos. He kind of been struggling with through promos lately, but that promo backstage throughout tonight was definitely one of his best of recent for sure. But yeah, in that tag division, kind of hit on that before, sneakily kind of building up that women's tag division with these big names with Charlotte and Alexa, obviously Bailey and Lyra, and the Kabuki Warriors, and then Zaruka as well. So sneakily kind of building up to one of the better women's title pictures, especially. Um, yeah, doing a great job of that is WWE. So props to them. And yeah, overall, kind of already alluded to a bit, but tons of storyline development. And for Saturday Night Main Event, looking like probably the strongest Saturday Night Main Event card I think I've seen. And like I said, not a weak match in the bunch. And this all for a go home show, for a main roster go home show is just that much more impressive. Typically, the main roster go home shows aren't the best, and this one kind of firing on all cylinders. So I give this one a 9 out of 10. Pretty impressive for me personally. But with that, this is the Monday Night Raw recap. And if you like what we're doing here, please let us know in the comments below. If you have any comments to add, or positive or negative, we take constructive criticism as needed as well. So please do let us know. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as that helps us out tremendously. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.